The corkscrew is another advanced Pilates exercise. It has variations, and we are not doing any variations right now. This is something that you are going to work up to, get stronger, practice every now and then you will be able to do it. So we're playing the video in slow motion because I'm going to talk you through some of the elements before we get into the follow along. So as you can see, this is an overhead exercise where the hips are coming up and over the shoulders, the legs are over the head. Now, what's different about this exercise compared to the others is that we roll up and down off center. So what the goal is that we're massaging the sides of the vertebra because we're rolling up one side of the vertebral column to get overhead, and we roll back down that side. The tailbone touches down on the floor, and we visualize that like we're tracing around the bottom of the tailbone so that when we go overhead again, we roll up the side of the other side of the spine. This is so confusing when you're doing it because your hips kind of twist in a different direction of where you see your feet. Because the legs are long, when you see your feet and your shins kind of hang out over your left eye and left shoulder, your hips are off center to the right. And when the pelvis is above the brain, we get very, very confused. So this is one that is a very big mind-body exercise, and it does require a lot of strength and control because of the dynamic. After the follow along portion, where you're going to hear me give you cues as if we were in a Pilates class together, I'm going to show you the full speed of the advanced variation. This is something that I just want you to have in your mind of what you're going to be working up to as you advance your Pilates practice. As someone with scoliosis, this is one of my go-to exercises that has really balanced my spine. Begin laying in a supine position with your legs straight, hands down next to your hips. Keeping the legs straight, pull the abdominals in as you sweep the legs up and over your head, peeling up the right side of your spine. Once the legs are overhead, have a little bit of suspension and then return the spine down onto the floor, peeling down the right side of the spine, down through the tailbone, sweeping the legs as low to the floor as you can, around the tailbone, and then up the left side of the spine, bringing the legs overhead once again. Have the moment of suspension as you peel down through the left side of your spine, through the pelvis, around the tailbone as the legs sweep down, and then up the right side of the spine as the legs go overhead again. Find the suspension, keeping your neck and shoulders open. Peel down the right side of the spine, through the ribs, through the low back, through the pelvis, down around the tailbone as the legs come down, and then sweeping up the left side of the spine as the shins and knees roll over the left shoulder, keeping the legs high away from your face, and then peeling back down through the ribs, through the low back, through the pelvis, down around the tailbone, and then up the right side of the spine again, finding the suspension with the legs overhead, keeping them straight, keeping the toes long, and then peeling down the right side of the spine through the low back, through the hips, down around the tailbone as the legs sweep down, and then up and over, peeling up the left side of the spine once again. Find the suspension, and then lower down the left side of the spine, peeling down through the tailbone, tracing up and over through the right side of the spine, peeling the hips, the low back, the ribs, the thighs are over face, keeping them lifted away from the face, and then rolling back down the ribs, the low back down through the tailbone. One more time, we're coming up the left side of the spine. We find the suspension with the legs overhead, keeping that lift in the hip, and then peeling down the left side of the spine, finally through the tailbone, and then bringing the legs down to a rest.